Hey YouTube, the 80s Wicked Horror again. As I was going over the last video, I realized that there's a second part to this video, and that's stuff that I also put on this channel, which is comic books as well. This is part two. That was an intentional part. It's not an intentional part two, but part two of this rant video, which is the comic book industry, which I don't understand for the life of me. But the comic book industry should be booming right now, but instead I'm noticing a lot of stores around. I used to have a store a couple miles down the road from me that closed down. A really nice man. It was a family-owned business, but a really nice man who knew everything there was to know about comics going all the way back to the Golden Age. Closed down. And it makes it harder in that respect for me being a huge comic fan as well. I don't know if you noticed back here, but to be able to collect comic books also. And it's not so much the stuff that's coming out every week, every month, and so on. It's the going into the experience of going into a comic book store and going to that back shelf or that behind the counter area and seeing all the old back issues and the collector stuff and the stuff that's too expensive for anybody to ever want to purchase, but if you ever had the money, you would most likely pick it up because it's either your favorite superhero or the one comic book that you've always promised yourself you would own. And again, digital media is a fantastic thing, but it's killing physical media slowly. It's a slow death, very, very, very slow death. And again, I don't believe entirely that it will go away, but it is definitely affecting these small businesses and even these former corporate businesses from doing their work. And it's frustrating. I have very little options nowadays. I haven't gone around to see every local comic shop that is within my general area to see what they offer. But the classic comic book shop where you've got figures, you've got statues, you've got current comic books, old school comic books, classic comic books, collector's comic books, expensive comic books, the gauntlet of things. Those are going away. Model kits. I haven't seen a store in a very, very, very long time where I could walk in like a Dragon's Den, if people know what Dragon's Den is. Where back when I was a kid, there was a store called Heroes World, where you can walk in and you just have a complete plethora of various things that you can, your eyes bulge out of their head and you can just sink your teeth into. Modeling kits was one thing that I did a lot as a kid, and those are gone. That's very rare to find a store. You really have to do a Google search now or really know people who know people that know where these local stores are. So that's the second part of this rant. It really is frustrating now that there is very few options aside from the big conventions. I'm a huge convention fan. I've been going to a bunch of conventions in the last couple of years, but it would be nice to be able to go locally, or not even that locally, but within like a 20, 30 mile radius, and know that you can go in, that you can make friends with the owner, that you can talk to the guy, that you can haggle, or if anything else, tell the person, hey, I'm looking out for this particular book. Say, I'm not going to say anything crazy, but say like a Wolverine #1, or the first appearance of various characters, and they'd keep an eye out for you, and they'd look for it. That kind of friendly business dealings is going away, and it's all due to corporate world just trying to make money off of stuff that's there now and don't care about the history about anything. I love most of the comic book movies that have come out in the last 5, 6, 7 years, but at the same time, they are a damper on the traditionalists in comic books, and you can't even call me a traditionalist because I didn't start reading until the late 80s, early 90s. But still, nonetheless, the stories at the time were that of the character in the books. Now you have this story, that story, that story, and when corporate ownership happens between things that are beloved that started out from the ground up, then you have that kind of just shaking up of the continuity of continuity. I can't say that word. Continuity of the various properties. So yeah, I wasn't expecting to do a second part to this rant video, but I realized after going over and doing a little bit of the editing of the first video that I didn't speak specifically about comic books as well. Wanted to make that known. It shows in my videos with the posters that I have hanging up on my wall behind me and the other stuff that I do on my channel. So yeah, there's part 2. Comic books, comic book stores. They should be flourishing. Instead, they're dying. That's pretty much it. Anyway, take care.